일단 엄마가 보러 왔어요. 엄마 한번 말해주면 엄마 좋아할 것 같아서.
No one expected what happened backstage. Jungkook hugged his mother with sparkling eyes, while Taehyung witnessed a scene so meaningful and impressed forever. That night, the Busan sky slowly turned calm after previously being thundered by the sound of tens of thousands of armies filling the stadium. The magnificent lights that had been illuminating the main stage for hours began to dim one by one. The cheers that had shaken the entire area since the beginning of the concert were now only a faint echo in the distance. Fans walked out of the stadium with happy faces, still carrying the euphoria of such a historic night. For many, the second night of BTS's Arirang World Tour will be one they will never forget. The extraordinary performance, the songs filled with emotion, the genuine laughter, and the long-lasting memories shared together made the night perfect. But in this touching fictional story, the most precious moments did not happen on stage. Not under the spotlights, not even in front of tens of thousands of eyes. The moment unfolded away from the crowd in a simple room backstage. As the staff began packing up their concert equipment and the BTS members made their way to the rest area, the atmosphere backstage felt completely different. Exhaustion was evident on their faces, but smiles of satisfaction never wavered, as they had just completed an incredible performance. Among all the members, Jungkook seemed a little different that night. His steps were slower, his thoughts seemed far away. Usually he was still full of energy after a concert, but this time something had been constantly preoccupying his mind. From the very beginning of the show, one figure had been constantly on his mind. According to the story, moments before he went on stage, Jungkook received news that his mother had secretly come to watch his performance live. That simple news transformed his entire mood throughout the concert. Behind the professional smile he displayed to the audience, a growing sense of emotion grew. Each time he remembered that the most important person in his life was among the sea of fans that night. After the concert, a staff member approached him and delivered a short message. His mother was waiting in a separate room. That simple sentence made Jungkook's heart beat faster than when he had stood in front of tens of thousands of people just hours earlier. Without another word, he immediately quickened his pace through the long backstage hallway. Each step seemed to transport him back in time. Back to the days when he was just a young man with big dreams and someone who always stood behind him, never giving up. At the end of the hallway, a simple door stood waiting for him. Jungkook took a deep breath before finally opening it. As soon as the door opened, time seemed to stop for a moment. Before him stood his mother, the same warm smile he had remembered from childhood. No words were exchanged, no lengthy conversation. Their gazes were enough to explain everything. Jungkook stepped forward and hugged his mother tightly. The embrace lasted a long time, much longer than a typical hug. Within it were so many feelings that had been difficult to express. Pent-up longing, immense gratitude, pride in the long journey he had traveled, and the realization that none of his achievements were without the support of his family. Outside, the activity was still bustling, but inside, the world seemed to have stopped moving. There's no global superstar named Jungkook. There was only a child finally able to embrace his mother again after a long journey toward his dream. The mother gently rubbed her son's back. A simple gesture she had probably done countless times since Jungkook was a child. The moment reminded him that some things never change, no matter how far someone goes. Success can change lives, fame can take someone across the world, but a mother's warmth will always feel the same. Slowly, the emotions he had been holding back began to melt. Jungkook allowed himself to savor this rare moment, so simple yet so meaningful. As the warm atmosphere unfolded, someone was seen standing in front of the slightly ajar door. It was Taehyung. Initially, he had only intended to call out to Jungkook as the other members were gathering before leaving the stadium. But when he saw his best friend hugging his mother, he immediately stopped in his tracks. Taehyung chose to wait outside without disturbing them. He understood that some moments were too precious to be interrupted. A few minutes later, Jungkook's mother noticed him and invited him in with a friendly smile. Taehyung entered with a respectful bow. A warm greeting immediately filled the small room. When Jungkook's mother thanked him for always taking care of her son, Taehyung paused for a moment. The simple words touched his heart. He simply responded with a small smile before gently patting Jungkook on the shoulder. There was no long speech, no dramatic expression, but sometimes a person's presence is more meaningful than 1,000 words. Slowly, the atmosphere, previously filled with tears, lightened. They began to chat about the concert that had just concluded. Jungkook's mother shared her impressions of the performance that night and praised all the BTS members for their extraordinary performance. Taehyung listened with a shy smile. Occasionally, Jungkook laughed along as his mother reminisced about childhood stories, adding to the warmth. The room, previously filled with emotion, slowly transformed into a place filled with laughter and fond memories. Taehyung seemed relieved to see the smiles returning to his best friends' faces. For him, seeing Jungkook enjoying simple joys with his family was just as valuable as the success of the concert they had just concluded. Beyond the grandeur of the stage, the spotlights, and the worldwide popularity, it's small moments like these that are often the most precious part of a person's life. Soon it was time to say goodbye. Jungkook's mother was preparing to leave the stadium. Before they parted, Jungkook hugged her tightly again. The second embrace was just as warm, but this time with a different kind of calm. A few steps behind them, Taehyung stood watching with a gentle smile. After the hug ended, he approached Jungkook and shared a simple sentence that made the atmosphere even more touching. That family is always the place one returns to, no matter how far one has traveled. Jungkook simply nodded with a smile. No lengthy answer was necessary. He understood his friend's meaning. The two then walked together down the backstage hallway to where the other BTS members were gathered. Outside, the Busan stadium grew quieter. The crowd that had filled the night had now dissipated. But for Jungkook, that night will always live in his memory. It wasn't just the spectacular concert or the overwhelming response from the fans, but the simple minutes he spent with his mother. And it was the presence of someone who understood without needing to say much. Someone who chose to remain by his side during the most meaningful moments. Sometimes the most memorable moments aren't the ones the world sees. It's the ones hidden from the spotlight that ultimately stay the longest in our hearts.